And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, my friends. This is Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 304, a very special episode of This Old Marketing, a special year in review show. And with me, as always, my good friend, my colleague, and a guy who's really the shining personification of a non-fungible token, Mr. Joe Polizzi. How are you, my friend?
Yes, I am one of a kind. It's funny, we had a conversation
yes.
with, we've got both kids at home for the holiday break, and there was something like a 2 or 3 minute conversation about why Dad is so strange. It was actually,
well, that's a conversation I wish I had.
You would have added.
I have a lot to contribute to that.
You would have been additive
I have a lot
to the
contribute.
conversation for sure.
Yeah.
You would have had plenty of examples of why I am eternally strange. But you know what? Who wants to be normal? Nobody wants to be normal. Does anybody say,
no, of course
what do you
not.
want to be when you grow up? I want to be normal. No.
I want to be average.
I want to be the middle. I want to be the middle number of a median. And then nobody says that.
That's right. No, nobody
How
says
are you?
that. Everybody wants to be
How are
weird.
you doing? Holidays are good to you so far, I take it.
Holidays have been lovely. I think I mentioned this. I was thinking about this at the end of last week as we were recording, which was I remember in the summertime. I was on the show. I kept saying to you, "Oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm so blessed. The client work, and I'm crazy busy. And as it turns out, it worked out so wonderfully. It rarely happens this way, but this year it happened this way, where the end of client work coincided with last week, and the idea was to be able to sort of pick up again in January. Now, it rarely works out that way because, we're in the middle of a deliverable, or we're in the middle of, figuring out interviews, or we're in the middle of, having, closing deals and all that kind of stuff. But this year was perfect. Like, all the client projects ended, and we have a whole bunch of new client projects that are going to kick off in the new year. And so it's like the perfect storm of being able to take the holidays off, actually really take the holidays off. And I have to tell you, it's just a very lovely thing.
That's fantastic to hear. It's funny. I don't know if it's worked the same, but how we were rushing to get the launch of Creator Economy Expo out. We announced that a couple weeks ago. We did the Never Ending Tickets, the whole thing. And I've been working my part of the whole thing is really mostly working on sponsorship deals. So it's like, okay, let's close Hubspot. We did the Rally.io deal. We got Market Muse in. We were very happy with that. And now I've got all my other meetings set up for after January 7th. So I'm feeling like, okay, can take some time off, be with the family, not, sometimes I obsess about certain things. I don't have to obsess about those things, work related. I guess the weird thing, we've never really done, I don't know if we've done a wrap-up episode before like this one, but I was just thinking, maybe you have a take as well, like maybe something unexpected that happened during the year. I honestly did not expect to launch another business. That's a new, I think when you and I think, maybe I was talking about it with you in December or something like that of last year, and I was saying, maybe I should do that, maybe I'm going to do this, and it's just strange how things happen. And here we are going, and especially going down the whole NFT rabbit hole and tokens. And I didn't see us, launching our own social token that we did in March. And it's just crazy how 6 months, 9 months, a year can be so vastly different than your expectations. And I guess that's where I'm sitting here right now thinking, how did we get here? Like, I didn't see that path coming. So
no, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you because I was actually talking to my wife about this during last week as well, which was feeling how stark the difference was in a really good way between December of 2020 and December of 2021. I mean, it's just been, look, I realize that, I say that with a huge amount of privilege, a huge amount of luck, a huge amount of, hard work and a huge amount of recognition that not everybody had a great 2021 either. But at the same time, 2021 was so different than I thought it would be. And really in so many good ways, right? Not all of them were easy. I'll say that. There was a lot of shifting, a lot of changing, a lot of pivoting, a lot of, and a lot of things that sort of came around. But at the, here I sit in, late 2021, getting ready for 2022. And it's a good place to be. And I too, could never have predicted, the amount of change that has occurred and where we sit. If you would have told me that I'd be thinking about, all the things that we're thinking about now at the beginning of 2021 and how much of my business has changed and how much how much excitement I have for the future, I would have been like, nah, you're crazy. You're absolutely nutty. But it turned out that way. And I'm super happy for it. It never fails to remind me that wherever you find yourself, is a place where you can look back and go, I am who I am because of my experiences, right? I am who I am because of the things the decisions I make and what I do and the way that I deal with adversity and success and all of those things. And as a result, it's very hard for me to ever say that I regret things because if I'm happy in the place that I'm at in life, it is because of all of the things good and bad that have happened in my life that I've missed and or succeeded at. So it's like the path to where I am today feels really good, because I'm happy with where I am, right? And it's only when I don't feel good about where I am that I look back and go, oh, I wish I had done that differently, or I wish I had done that differently, and those kinds of things. I'm rambling on,
it's funny.
That's the point.
It's the whole, regret is maybe the worst thing that can happen to a human being.
It's like worry.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, you pick your direction, go at it, live your life, be hungry, but if you can get past the thing about just don't look back. Just don't look back. You've learned it. You've lived it. Go forward.
It's the Ted Lasso, right? It's Ted Lasso, have the memory of a goldfish.
Yeah, exactly. You love that whole goldfish thing too. You love to talk about what was that? The whole marketing and the goldfish thing.
That was the marketing thing. Yeah, that's the marketing. It's totally BS.
Myth you've debunked it many times. But anyway,
exactly.
We tend to ramble and talk. But have we ever done a wrap up episode before?
We have not.
Are you serious?
Wrap up episode
in the 8 years we've been doing this. This is the first wrap up episode.
This is the first year-end wrap-up show where what we're going to do, folks, just to sort of make it clear, is we went back and looked at all of our previous episodes over 2021 and picked our favorite stories from the year, the ones that we either loved or that we love talking about or that we think are meaningful. And we're going to talk about, we're going to go back and forth and talk about our favorite stories from 2021. So yeah, I think it'll be fun.
So this episode will either be 30 minutes or 17 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we are going to try and fast forward so we get through a number of them because we each picked quite a few. Like there was, it's not like we starved for favorite stories this year.
No, but we'll do our best to be as brief as we possibly can, which we can't be. And by the way, just so everyone's listening,
people are rolling their eyes right now, literally rolling their eyes.
We always talk about these special episodes and say, can we do an episode in like 30 minutes and 35 minutes? And that's like an hour and 20-minute episode.
Nope.
It just...
Yeah, the answer to that would be a hard nope.
Just can't do it.
Yep.
Because you talk
it's not going to happen.
Because that's why.
True. They're true. That is true. That is true. I will not make the same claim to you, although I'll let the listeners just make that judgment themselves over who gets more.
You know what we should? Okay, last thing. You know what we should do? Take all the episodes and let's for the whole year and figure out how much you spoke versus how much I spoke.
Oh, that would be fun. There should be a tool.
I'm sure there is.
There should be a tool.
I'd have a bet that you would have much more, but that's okay.
Well, only because I do the intros and the outros. We can take
those out. We don't have to count those. We just count everything else. Because you use bigger words.
That is true. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How are we going to do this? Well,
all right. Let's switch off and go back and forth, and you go first.
All right. I have 5 main theme stories that really I thought told the story of the year. And the first one that I want to focus on, it's actually we covered in 3 different episodes, but the stories were, and I'm going to go back through them real quickly. It was episode 302. We talked about Twitch bumping Hassan off of the platform. We just talked about this. The whole Instagram, Facebook going after @Metaverse. In episode 286, it was OnlyFans changing their rules about what kind of content that they would allow on their platform. And then back to 259 was about how Facebook, if you remember this one, and this was early in the year, how they kicked off all the news sources in Australia. You remember that one?
Yeah.
And, I could have had more, but basically, as I was going through the episodes, Robert, for the year, the whole rented land thing just was sort of the big 2021 theme of these social platforms making decisions to do whatever they want and not thinking about the rights, which the users have no rights, but the lack of rights of the users, and how you and I have talked all year and for 8 years about especially marketers and content creators figuring out that they've got to get off of these platforms and at least have some kind of proprietary data initiative like an email newsletter so we have some of that control. And so that's what I thought. I don't know. I mean, you might have some other thoughts about different episodes, but those 3 caught me the most because after every one of those episodes, I would put on then I would go to Twitter, of course, and I would say, do not build your content house on rented land. And I keep saying it over and over. It's always in vogue every time I say it. So that was what struck me first as sort of the number one trend of the year in wrap up.
I think that's a really good one. And I think it's interesting because, when we look back, and I ended up doing a bit of I store all of our show notes and scripts in Evernote. So, of course, I was doing searches to go look back in through the past to find the links and all the things as we were prepping for the show. And it was amazing to me how many of those stories there were, which was like, hey, don't build your home on rented land types of things, because we talked about the rise of Clubhouse. In the fall of Clubhouse to some extent, we talked about all of the Facebook challenges that were this year. We talked about social audio. We talked about podcasting. We talked about all of these things that are at heart rented land. And every time we were sort of, after a while, even you and I said to each other, it just feels like we're saying this again, but, to the point where you actually, I think in August or September, actually posted, literally just posted up on LinkedIn, don't build your house on rented land. Literally, it was a single line post.
It went crazy.
Tons of and then,
crazy. Of course, at the same time, you have people saying, that's the stupidest advice ever. You want to be everywhere your audience is at. And I'll say, there's nothing wrong with social media. There's nothing wrong with focusing on a platform and building an audience on social media. But you have to have some kind of exit strategy, right? Just when they change the rules. And what those episodes I went through talk about is Facebook, OnlyFans, Twitch, and Instagram all changed the rules. They all just said, we don't care. We're going to do whatever we want because they can. And maybe that's why you and I are leaning so much into Web3 right now, because whether it's true or not, the idea of decentralization is a key component. And I love that. I want to love it so much because of the power that these 5 or 6 social platforms have over content creators right now and users.
Well, it's a great segue, because my first story that I picked as one of my favorite stories from this year was a story that was back in March that we talked about on the show, which was a blog post actually, and we've ended up talking about this platform quite a bit over the course of the next 9 months. The Mirror.xyz, which of course is a Web 3.0 type of new, I guess, journalism, or a new version of what Medium wants to be, I guess. But it was really this idea about how you can monetize your content on this platform, and it was a blog post that we covered on the show from a guy by the name of Jared Dicker, who talked about. He said it was the new media structure, the ownership economy. Right? He talked about this idea of how media companies are really talent companies, and as we've seen this acceleration by challengers, incumbents, all of these things, sort of small companies competing with big companies competing with medium-sized companies, we're starting to see, as he said, the rise of the Renaissance creator, and all of this was made possible with this idea of a decentralized idea, right? This ownership, the idea of ownership. And I think in many ways where we've sort of ended the year with Web3, and certainly we're just in the very beginning of this. We're just in the early, maybe not even out of the dugout yet in terms of what's going to actually happen with Web 3.0. But as we end the year, I think one of the things that's becoming clearer is that what smart contracts, what the metaverse, what Web 3.0 promises to provide is a democratization of ownership, right? A democratization of the way that we can remove gatekeepers from what has historically been sort of a transactional basis, whether it's peer-to-peer commerce, peer-to-peer finance, peer-to-peer trading, peer-to-peer contracts. All those things are sort of made possible with this idea of blockchain and Web 3.0 technology. And so this idea that, I've said it, I said it before on the show, I'll say it again, if Web 1.0 was about helping our customers find something, and Web 2.0 was about helping our customers experience something, and if Web 3.0 then is helping our customers co-create something, create something that they also own. And to me, that's the opportunity that we have as marketing people. And I think this story was a really sort of early, an early canary in the coal mine, if you will. It's funny when if you look back at the episodes, you get it January, like, oh, it's a normal month. And then all of a sudden you get into late February and March and we go full tokens. Like we start talking about NFTs and tokens and all kinds of stuff, which I guess I'll just go right into. I'm going to skip over one. I'll go back to it, but I'll go into March 12th, which was episode 262. And that was the first episode where we really talked about NFTs. And if you remember, you and I really talked. We were fighting about it because you were telling me that the whole thing was stupid. And well, let's be clear about what my argument is, because I have not changed my opinion on this. But yes, I saw the tweets that were going on, by the way, the last couple of weeks, where it's been like, Robert's finally coming around, and Joe says, "Good boy, so proud of you," and petting me like a dog, which. Let's be very clear. My opinion hasn't really changed. It's evolved, certainly, but it has not, I still stand by my March, whatever it was, opinions there. So please continue, though.
So basically, that's a very important, I'll remember that week forever, because two things happened in that week. One, that was the week that Beeple sold his NFT for $69 million.
Right.
So we were talking a bit about that. So basically, it made headlines everywhere, regular news and all that stuff. But the reason why we covered it, actually the first story, if you remember this one, was Seth Godin's blog post where he talked about he was all negative about NFTs. And my take on it, and I think you agreed to a point, was these creator and marketing business models are changing. We don't really know where we're going, but I think if you close off to the possibilities now, you're going to regret it. There's that regret word. And that's what I was, that's what I was saying. There's something here, and I think we both sort of agreed that, yeah, this might be peak NFT right now. We might be in a bubble, but there's something here. There's a new business model. There's a new way that we can connect with customers and our audience. And that's when you and I just really started to do the research and figure it out. So,
yeah. Well, that was it, right? Because even in March, what intrigued me the most was the technology, right? The technology of blockchain, the technology of smart contracts. To me, that's a game changer. The idea of, an art project, and selling, the ownership, quote unquote, because it's not ownership in most cases. This is the big misnomer so often in this, of a JPEG file that lives somewhere on the web, was to me, it's such a red herring. And it's such it is not where, because you rightfully, and those who I've had this conversation so many times with people who are just trying to grok even the earliest kinds of what NFT, blockchain, metaverse really mean. By the way, I don't have all the answers. I'm just exploring it as much as anybody. But when I try and explain it, and you get into the conversation of Beeple buying a JPEG, and selling a JPEG for $69 million, the absurdity of that sort of completely whitewashes over the entirety of the interestingness of the technology. And that was what was so just annoying in the early days, right? It's been all of 9 months, but to your point, I think you said it exactly well. We don't know how it's going to change, but it is going to change the way that content creators create, the way that marketers market, the way that accountants account, the way that CEOs lead, the way that we all behave in some particular way. And the sentence that I just said there is the same sentence that you and I wrote in Managing Content Marketing back in 2009. And I think that's the kind of excitement that we can have.
And then what the NFT is, the let's say it's the JPEG. It's not the JPEG, right? It's what the JPEG represents. What's the underlying experience and agreement? What's the cream filling inside the donut, right? It's not the outside, it's the inside. Right. So that's why you do your work. You do your due diligence, you get part of a community, and you figure out what is underneath this thing. And that's where you're seeing some really creative things. That's why you saw the Bored Ape Yacht Club take off, because it's not the images. It's because you basically get into a club. They're paying for access to a club and a membership.
That's right.
But if you're just saying, are you just paying for the image? No. In some cases you are, but I think right now that's very few and far between. Everything seems to be about access and experience now, which is I like. And now you're getting the creators and marketers to do some really interesting things. So there you go.
Right. Yeah. As an experiment, I bought 2 NFTs. I told you about the one. I bought a second one because I wanted to play around just to understand better what it was like to try and be like an art, quote unquote, art collector, right? So buying these things on really speculation, of guessing when these images would either go high, go low, or whatever. I mean, it's a very speculative market, and I did. And interestingly, it's been interesting. I'm getting offers now on art, quote unquote, that I bought, earlier this year that I can make $1,000. I can make, and making $1,000 over 9 months on buying a JPEG is highly suspect, but it's interesting. You know what I mean? It's like there's a weirdness there that I again, with full admission of the inequality and the sort of absurdity of that, There is something to witness there as part of culture.
It's honestly not that absurd, because if you look over the past 30 years, what's the best performing asset of all assets? Stocks, bonds, real estate. What's the best performing? Art. Art is the best performing. What happened in 2021 is that regular people got access to the art market. That never happened before.
I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I'm just saying. I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure that the absurdity of it is in the art world, the what makes it quite frankly, what makes it truly an investment class that outpaces others is the ease by which money can be laundered. I mean, let's be honest. It provides a very great asset class for billionaires and millionaires to hide cash. So that's
possible.
That's one
possible, but it's also true. But that's with anything. You're going to have negative cases in every asset class. But in this case, was there ever a moment in time when you look at early 2021 where people were actually buying? This is not even the underlying, what is the NFT? This is people were buying art in January and February and March of 2021. They were actually just buying art, and they never have done that before. The majority of these people. So it was a whole new thing that we saw went up and down and up. And now, I guess right now, as we record this at the end of 2021, we're seeing a little bit of a bear market as everybody catches up, where you've got 1,000 NFT projects going on right now, and we'll see where it goes. But to your point, lots of potential.
Lots of potential. Lots of potential for the technology. The technology gets better every single week.
And now we're just seeing where the applications are. So
yeah, I think we're really starting to see true utility come out of some of these applications, in the way that we do commerce, in the way that we do access to content, in the way that we do the ability to create addressable audiences without personal identification. That, to me, is one of the most exciting things for marketers. There's a lot of opportunity here in the way that blockchain and tokens can be utilized in a marketing way that has nothing to do with selling a JPEG, and all about utility. And I think that, to me, is the exciting thing.
And I know we want to get out of it. We keep talking about it, but as we launched Tiltcoin in March of 2021, and I've said this many times. So this is a fungible token, not an NFT, but I've never seen a loyal audience come together as quickly as it did around the tokenization concept. And I'll swear this up and down. I mean, I've been building audiences for 22 years now in many different forms, but there's something about an audience member having, whether or not it is ownership or not, feeling like they're a part of a community more than just the content itself. And this token has something to do with it. And I've just never seen a group of people. I mean, we built the Discord from 0 to 1,000, and these people are talking offline, and they're building small communities and whatever. And would that have happened without the token? Sure, it could have. But did it happen more quickly and easily with the token? Absolutely, I believe that. I don't know where it goes from here. Yeah. Maybe we were at the right time and place, but I think there's a future there. So,
something in the way she moves me.
Good song.
I don't want to leave her now. I believe in how. All right, let's. I got one for you.
Yeah, your turn.
I got one for you. Yeah, this one is. So this one, I think, is the biggest marketing story of the year, which was back in. It was back in August when Salesforce decided that they were going to launch a complete streaming service, and they launched Salesforce Plus. To me, I think that might have been the tipping point because let me say why I think it's a tipping point. Because when I see them sort of, one of the things that held true that people are continually amazed by, Dreamforce, which we've talked about a million times for the last 8 years about how it was a great content marketing platform. It's the Dreamforce is the largest, and until the 2020 pandemic and all of that, was the largest in-person tech software event on the planet. And 175,000 people go to San Francisco every year. 2020, and that's a content marketing platform, make no bones about it, right? It is all about celebrating Salesforce. It is all about celebrating CRM, Imagine Dragons, Colin Powell, all the speakers that they've got. It's a media event, and that basically is as important to Salesforce as one of their products. And so it is truly the quintessential content marketing platform. And we talk about it in Killing Marketing, and we talk about it. It is a great example of that. It wasn't until 2020, so easily, let's call it 15 years. I don't know when they started. It was around mid 2000 somewhere, that they had an online version of Dreamforce. And people go, really? It's like, yep, there was no 365, 24/7 version of Dreamforce available until 2020, when they decided to have the event virtually. That was the very first year that they did any kind of online access to Dreamforce in any meaningful way. And so now when they go, oh, that's interesting, because the digital experience and the amount of content and the amount of good content that can be there, that spurs the idea of launching an entire streaming platform they're calling it Salesforce Plus, which they debuted it at Dreamforce in September, and they're starting with original programming, and they're launching shows, and it's an amazing thing. And that, to me, is the evolution of content marketing at a company like Salesforce. And we're starting more and more, this is why I believe it's a tipping point, you're starting to see more and more of that in our clients, which is, how do we not just create siloed little islands of goodness, our resource center, our blog, or our digital magazine? How do we create an entire ecosystem of content where people want to stay, where people want to live, not just visit from time to time? Because the binge watching and the idea of binge buying, not there anymore. It is about, how do I hold the attention of audiences? And this is just a great example of that. So I think 2022, I think we're going to look back 10 years from now and go, Salesforce Plus, if it's successful. And I'm full admitting that there's a lot of execution that has to happen here. But basically, we'll look back 10 years if this was successful as saying that was a pinnacle moment.
No, I love that example. I think you're right, because in 4 or 5 years, maybe less, everything's moving so quickly. It's going to be an exception if you don't have a media platform part of your organization, especially if you're a big company, probably big tech company. Next 2 years, every big tech company is going to have some kind of a media ecosystem like you're talking about. It leads directly in. So you think the biggest story was Salesforce Plus. I don't know if I can disagree with that, but I'm going to put on equal plane. February 5th, 2021, you and I covered HubSpot buying The Hustle.
Yeah,
and I think that goes hand in hand with what you're talking about, because I think what we're seeing is a new generation of product and service company that says, hey, building audiences and building ongoing content experiences is really important. It's so important that if we can't build it, we have to go out and buy it. And HubSpot did reportedly $27 or so million to buy The Hustle, which has 1.5 million email subscribers to their small business entrepreneurial newsletter. I thought it was huge. And when I go out and talk to people, and I'll do my online virtual shows or whatever, or the questions that I get, a lot of them are around what that meant to the industry, what it means for creators. And I think that it's one of those, probably just like Salesforce Plus, HubSpot buying The Hustle is the same thing, where you finally get chief marketing officers saying, oh my goodness, like this is a thing. Like we need to do something. And that's what I've seen, right? You'll see this spur all sorts of activity in 2022 because of those two events.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, and actually in the what we'll obviously relink to in this episode's show notes is the Axios story, which links to not only HubSpot's acquisition of The Hustle, but links to, others as well, right? There's been a number of acquisitions in the space, and will continue to be acquisitions in the space as we move through this. It's just going to become sort of the strategy du jour of looking at buy instead of build, right? I just think buy is going to become so much more common than even build, because I'm even hearing it from my clients these days, which is like, they look at the timeline of saying, well, what's it going to take to build a blog, build an audience, build a thing, all that. And quite frankly, throwing up their hands a little bit, going, I just, it's a little hard to make that ROI argument, right? Because it's just hard to launch new things. It's, it's not impossible.
It just takes, it's the time element.
Continue to happen.
It's the time. You can absolutely do it. But you have to be patient. You have to know that you need 12 to 18 to 24 months to really see this start to gain traction. And as we talked about on the last episode, you've got a lot of quarterly mindsets going on. And it's tough to get past that when people say, what are we selling right now? What have you done for me lately? And you're saying, oh, well, we're in just month 6 of this thing, and we haven't built our minimum viable audience yet. And they're like, you're done. Get out. So it's impatience is a killer. So go buy it. That's what we're seeing.
What you got?
I'll go do another one, because basically you did the Salesforce Plus, I did the HubSpot NFT one, the HubSpot buying the Hustle. I'll do the next one, and I didn't know if I wanted to bring this up, Robert, but I think I have to, because it's been running almost into every episode we've done since that moment. And this is the April 9th episode, not our first mention of Clubhouse, but you and I have had our back and forth on the social audio platform Clubhouse. This is episode 266, and that was when they were valued at $4 billion, where you thought that was the most laughable thing in the world. And I thought that there's still good times ahead for Clubhouse. And I mean, I'll let you speak for your own take on Clubhouse. I still think that Clubhouse has an opportunity to do some amazing things. I think that they, in a very short period of time, they have done some incredible things. Maybe not to the $4 billion valuation, but I think that there is a possibility there for people to use that platform in a very specific way to target specific audiences. And you feel that's not it, right? Correct? You're not. You're on the other side of that railroad track there. Yeah.
I think, yes. I believe that Clubhouse, and if I were making predictions, which is not until next episode, but if I were making predictions, I would make a prediction that Clubhouse will see the same fate as Quibi. It will ultimately be, let's call it, acquired, if you want to call it acquired, into something else. It is Clubhouse is a feature, not an app.
I think it remains to be seen. I think that
unless there's some major pivot that I'm not seeing, I just don't. I can't see it.
Here's the thing.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
Here's the thing, and you know that I'm a big believer in focus. LinkedIn is adding this, absolutely. Facebook has added this. Twitter has added this. Everyone is adding the feature, right? But maybe Clubhouse is, because they're only focused on this and that particular experience, maybe they become the place to go for that. Maybe, right?
Maybe. I like your
possible.
Optimism.
I know a number of creators that have done some really amazing things on Clubhouse. Now, personally, I did not. I gave it a shot.
There were some people who did some amazing things on Quibi too.
No, there wasn't. I mean, nobody did anything amazing on Quibi.
Oh, that's not even a little bit true. You should go watch.
Roku bought that.
The Reno 911. The Reno 911 guys did some very funny stuff on Quibi. And yeah, there was some good content on Quibi that ultimately went to Roku, by the way. But yeah, it wasn't that the content wasn't good. It was just a bad,
Roku bought that for couch cushion money.
Exactly. They got a deal. I'm sure that there are content creators on Clubhouse that are amazeballs. That does not mean the platform is going to be successful or that it has any chance in hell.
I think the retread executive team for Quibi was not the right group of individuals to lead that initiative, if it ever should have been led in the first place. I'll just leave it at that.
I have another one. What is yours that we could touch on that's in the similar vein, which is, I don't even know if you remember this back in April. This is one of my honorable mentions because I had forgotten about it. Do you remember that IBM, the huge, of course, ginormous company, spun off an entire IT services unit, and we might remember some of the services that they provided. Renamed their company, this spinoff, Kyndryl, Kyndryl. Do you remember this?
Barely,
yeah, Kyndryl,
but yes,
basically, it was 90,000 employees. That's like no small potatoes.
So 90,000 employees now work for a spinoff called Kyndryl. Is it still called Kyndryl?
That is correct. It is still called Kyndryl. If you go to Kyndryl.com, Kyndryl, you will see the lovely Kyndryl, and they have all kinds of IT related services, everything from cloud services to digital workplace to security and customer, CRM and all sorts of things. But I got to be honest, not a lot there. I'm not seeing a whole bunch of stuff that's really. I just don't see a lot. Like, I go to their news section and not.
You know what I like? There. I like the two Y's in Kyndryl. That's all I'll say.
To me it looks like some sort of drug that you would take to get rid of your freckles, right? Like if you really hated your freckles and it's like, what? I really hate my freckles. What should I take, Bob? Well, try this new drug. It's called Kyndryl. Side effects include throwing up and going out of your car.
No, I think it's more like, yes, it's something like that, but I think it's more of a rash. It's like, I've got a rash on my leg and I just can't get rid of it. And then you need
Kyndryl. You need Kyndryl.
Rub Kyndryl on your rash twice a day and just be careful because if you take too much, you'll be dead in a week. I don't know, something like that. But
I do like
be careful
with it. You got to... Over-applying to Kyndryl is a bad thing.
And our apologies to anyone listening to this who works at Kyndryl. They don't care. It's orange. You know how I love orange. I mean, their company color is orange, which, again...
It's kind of orange. It's more red.
Is it really? Am I colorblind? It looks orange. It looks the orangest of orange. Kind of... I don't...
It's...
Right?
No, I think it's more red than orange, but that could be my monitor too.
Well, apologies to the folks at Kyndryl. I have my last one. My last wrap
definitely.
Up. This was during the dog days of summer. We covered this one. This was in the July 2nd, episode 278, and that was name, image, likeness that the NCAA went and approved. I thought that was so huge.
That's a yes. Yeah. That's a great one. That's a great one. That
could have actually been the episode of the year because of the fact that I hear more people talking about NIL in just regular speak. Like people will bring it up. Anyone that's into sports realizes this. My son knows a lot of people that have a lot of his friends that are gamers, that are athletes in college, that have been taking sponsorships that never were able to before. And it's just interesting that development happened. And why are we talking about it on this show? It's because of the fact that because now they can go out and get these sponsorships and basically sell their name for money or their likeness for money in some way, they also want to build an audience. How are they building an audience? They're creating regular content on particular channels, like we talk about for a long time. And so you see a lot of athletes in the NCAA creating a lot of content now on different platforms like TikTok and Instagram and whatnot, and Twitch, streaming on Twitch and things like that. So I thought that was a very important development.
That's a great one.
Yep.
Yep. It's funny. I don't hear in marketing and advertising circles, I don't hear a lot about it. The couple of stories that I've seen in the last, let's say, 3 months have all been around how there's actually been a bit of a pullback, not a pullback, but that there have been some, sort of false starts, if you will, of some of the athletes that have went like jumped in too quickly and then went, oh, maybe it's not, maybe I need to sort of rethink this or think this through. But I think very quietly in the background, I think this is going to become just exactly as you said, one of the biggest. I mean, maybe it's the pandemic too. Maybe there's something around the sort of, wet blanket that is the pandemic that's beginning to not, not really allow this to flower like we thought it would.
I think it's the same thing what we talked about with NFTs being new. I think what happened in a lot of the situations that I read about is a lot of these athletes were taking the first thing offered at them instead of, hey, this is a new thing. We actually need a strategy. How do I build an audience? What are the right deals to take? What do I want? What do I want my brand to stand for? These are questions they never asked before. And you saw some kids that were doing, they were taking an auto deal or they were up on a billboard doing something they didn't want to do, kind of a cash grab, instead of thinking about this as a long-term initiative. So, yeah. Now I think now you're getting a little bit of, oh, okay, well, let's just not jump at Mike's bike shop, and I'm going, or what? Not that I have anything wrong with Mike's bike shop.
Kindle.
Exactly.
I'm gonna get my Kindle sponsorship
for ankle rashes or whatever the case might be. So
you get IT services and your rash cream at Kindle.
The new 2-in-1.
Oh, we're gonna get so much trouble.
No, we're gonna get right after the My Pillow guy. Late at night, you're gonna see Kindle, the 30-minute infomercial come on, and it does everything. And it's orange, but it's a deep orange that makes it look like red. We don't really know.
Kind of like your rash. All right,
that's all I got. Do you have any more stories? Those were my stories of the year.
I do not. I am.
You're tapped
done.
You're
done. I am done with this year, and I am done with these stories. Yeah. So you got anything happening over the New Year's Eve?
Yeah, basically
Day,
over the break, extended break here. We've got both the kids at home from college, and we're going to spend as much time with them as we can while everything's in down mode. So yeah, have a lot of family time because right now we're at a point where I think they may be lying, but I think that they actually want to still spend time with us. So since that's the case, we're all in.
Yeah, you just take advantage of that.
And oh, by the way, I did watch The Matrix, and I got to tell you.
Oh, you did?
Not giving anything away. Loved it. Absolutely.
You did. Okay, I've heard mixed reviews, so I haven't seen it yet.
I really did enjoy it.
I've also heard the new Spider-Man is off the hook.
Haven't watched it yet, but will very soon. Haven't watched it, but I did see the Matrix on my favorite streaming channel, HBO Max. And really enjoyed it. So there you go. How about you, sir?
Okay.
What do you got going on?
I'm going to go watch The Matrix now. I mean, that's the thing I'm going to go do. But yeah, same thing. Just a little R&R time, and I mean that in both ways. The R&R time, and yeah, just a little bit of relaxing before we get back into the heavy duty January. And excited for that. Excited for 2022. I really am. Fun. Truly excited. Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for 2021 and this old marketing episode of our rehash of some of the stories here. By the way, if you haven't been over to our website yet, if you haven't heard this enough, you should get over there at thisoldmarketing.site. You can dive into the show notes. We'll link all the stories that we talked about in the show notes today. Or you can listen to any of the other 303 episodes that we have over there. You get on over there. And remember, hashtag us up in 2022, won't you? Hashtag us up with This Old Marketing and give us story ideas, give us things that we should be talking about. And until we meet again, Happy New Year to all of you. We'll see you in 2022. And just remember, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.